This is an iHeart podcast.
Welcome in, everyone, to Lively Lewis Stories.
That's right. We're back with even more awesome adventures with Levi and Ivy.
Set your storytime meter to fun and get ready to join the Lively Lewis crew.
All you need is your imagination and...
Off we go! I can't wait to see where our story takes us today.
Have you ever wanted to get more Lively Lewis in your life?
Well, we've got you covered.
Grab an adult and zoom over to livelylewisshop.com.
Or just click on the link in our show notes.
Enough about that. Let's get to today's super Lively Lewis story.
The story you're about to enjoy was inspired by Emet. Thank you so much for your awesome idea. With Levi away at summer camp for a week with his dad, Ivy didn't know what she would do. Yes, Ivy had friends in her neighborhood to play with, but Levi and Ivy played together every day and always shared the most amazing adventures. She was really going to miss him. However, Ivy's mom was determined to make their week together the best it could be. "Ivy, come down here so we can start our first Mommy and Ivy Day," called Ivy's mom from the kitchen. Ivy was very excited to share the whole week with her mom, doing all sorts of fun things like cooking, art projects, picnics at the park, movie nights, bike rides in the mountain, and sunny days lounging at the beach. But just a little bit of her wish she could be sharing those fun days with Levi and her dad, too. As Ivy walked into the kitchen, her mom was waiting with her favorite breakfast, pancakes topped with strawberries and whipped cream. "This looks great, Mom. Thanks," said Ivy with a smile as she sat down at the table. "So, are we ready to start our week of fun?" asked Ivy's mom as she drizzled some maple syrup on Ivy's pancakes. Ivy wanted to make her mom feel good, so she excitedly said yes. But even though she was excited, she couldn't imagine spending the whole week without Levi. This was, after all, the first time they had been apart for that long. Ivy decided to ask her mom what she had planned, hoping some of the activities would take her mind off missing her brother. "We'll start out today by going to see the new exhibit at the Natural History Museum, and then we'll get some ice cream at your favorite place, Scoops and Cones. Then we'll have an outdoor movie night," said Ivy's mom. "Does that sound good for day one?" Ivy really liked what she was hearing, and ice cream always made any day better. "Wow, that sounds great," answered Ivy as she ate her pancakes. "And don't take this the wrong way, but will we be going on to have any adventures this week?" Ivy's mom just looked at her daughter, not sure how to respond. "What I mean is, are we going to swim with any mermaids or fly to a magical land on the back of a dragon or shrink down to the size of ants and help a bug neighborhood put on a carnival?" asked Ivy. "You know, anything like that." Ivy was just thinking of the fun adventures that she and Levi always had together and was wondering if maybe she could have an adventure like that with her mom. "I didn't have any mermaids or dragons or a bug carnival on the schedule, but the week has only just begun. Who knows what will happen?" said Ivy's mom with a big smile. "I just know whatever we do, we will have fun because we'll be together." Hearing her mom say that, Ivy started to look at the week in a whole new way. Instead of seeing it as a week without Levi, she would see it as a week with her mom. And what she didn't know at that moment was that their week was shaping up to be something truly unforgettable. Ivy and her mom went out for the day and had a wonderful time. They drove home eating their ice cream and talking about the movie they'd be watching that night outside. They even decided to sleep in the treehouse. "I had a really great day. Thanks, Mom," said Ivy, "even if we didn't have any crazy adventures in outer space or a magical forest." "I think it was a pretty great day, too, and we have the whole week left to explore magical lands," said Ivy's mom with a giggle as they walked from the garage to the front door. And that's when they saw it. It was a small, rectangular package wrapped in brown paper sitting at their front door. It also had a sticker on the top that said, "For Ivy." She bent down and picked up the box, showing it to her mom. "Do you think it's from Levi? Maybe he sent me something from camp," asked Ivy. "Maybe. Why don't you open it up inside? I have to take care of a few work things, and then we can get started on dinner," suggested Ivy's mom. Ivy carried the box inside and placed it on the coffee table in her living room, while her mom walked to her office to answer some emails. Ivy tore off the brown paper, revealing a metal box underneath. There was nothing written on the box, but to Ivy, it looked very mysterious. "I wish Levi was here to see this," thought Ivy to herself. "I bet he would think it was pretty neat." Ivy then slowly opened the lid of the metal box, not knowing what could be inside. A million ideas swirled in her mind, thinking of what could possibly be waiting for her. The tiny hinges of a box squeaked and then stopped as Ivy found herself staring at a pen. A really simple-looking black pen with a silver cap. What? Ivy thought to herself as she picked up the pen and took off the cap. She examined it closely, wondering why it had been sent to her, and still feeling like it was something special. After looking at it for a little while, searching for anything, a name, a symbol, picture, that would tell her where it came from, or why it was now in her hands. She decided the only thing to do was draw something with it. Maybe it was just a pen, and that was fine. Ivy loved drawing and quickly grabbed her sketchbook to see how good it was to draw with. The pen glided across the paper like butter, and Ivy immediately loved the bright blue color. It almost sparkled on the page. She doodled a bit, making swirly lines here and there. Then she decided to draw a lightning bolt. That was something that Levi always drew when he was doodling. As Ivy finished drawing the lightning bolt, she stared at her picture. It looked so real, like nothing she'd ever drawn before. And then, before she knew it, the lightning bolt drawing started to move. The drawing wiggled and shook and then leapt off the page right in front of Ivy's eyes. "Oh my goodness!" Ivy exclaimed as she jumped back on her couch and watched as the lightning bolt darted around the living room, banging into walls, lamps, and furniture. She knew she had to get the busy bolt out of the house before it did some real damage. So she grabbed the first thing she saw, a big blanket, and tossed it over the lightning bolt as it flew past her. Ivy wrapped her arms around the blanket and carried it, along with the lightning bolt, to a nearby window. She then opened the window, tossed the blanket and bolt outside into her backyard. Then, without any warning, the lightning bolt burst into a bright light and rocketed off into the clouds, disappearing from view and leaving Ivy completely stunned by what had just happened. But aside from being stunned, she was also very, very excited by this new magical pen. Knowing what it had the ability to do, Ivy knew that drawing with it in her house was not the best thing for her to do. Instead, she ran into the backyard and drew a wonderful playset, complete with a twirly slide, swings, a trampoline, and a rock wall. And just like before, as soon as she was done drawing, the sparkling picture leapt off the page and became a real playset right before her eyes. At this point, Ivy knew the rest of the week was going to be pretty interesting. And since there was no way to hide the giant playset from her mom, Ivy decided to tell her all about her new magical pen. "This is absolutely incredible," Ivy's mom kept saying over and over again as she looked at the playset outside and listened to Ivy's story. "I need to see it work." At that point, Ivy handed her mom the magical pen and sketchbook and asked her what she would be drawing. Ivy's mom thought and then asked Ivy what she wanted for dinner. After Ivy said a giant cheeseburger and curly fries with a chocolate milkshake, her mom got to work drawing exactly what her daughter had said. She also included a cheeseburger for herself, onion rings, and a strawberry milkshake. And just like when Ivy used the magical pen, as soon as Ivy's mom was done drawing, the sparkling pictures leapt off the page and became real right in front of her eyes. "Wow, this food looks amazing," said Ivy. "Can I take a bite?" Ivy and her mom both stared at the food for a minute before picking up the cheeseburgers and giving them a taste test. They were amazing, and so was everything else. Ivy and her mom then took turns drawing different small things with the magical pen. Some butterflies, some giant flowers, and even some brownie sundaes for dessert. As it got later and later, Ivy and her mom were worried that the magical pen would run out of ink and wanted to save some for the next day. They were also getting a bit tired. They put the magical pen back in the metal box, closed it up, got ready for bed, and headed up to the treehouse. They made sure to bring the magical pen with them so they could use it again as soon as they woke up the next morning. However, the magical pen had other plans. As Ivy and her mom drifted off to sleep, they talked about all the fun things they could draw the next day. Then as they slept, they could have not imagined what would happen next. The magical pen rattled around in the metal box until the lid popped open. Once out of the box, the pen took on a life of its own. It was able to draw whatever it liked, and this magical pen really took a liking to Ivy's first drawing, the lightning bolt. As Ivy and her mom slept, the magical pen hopped over to Ivy's sketchbook and began drawing many lightning bolts. And as the pen finished its drawing, the lightning bolts leapt off the page and into the night sky. And with so many lightning bolts in the sky, you can imagine what happened next. That's right, a big storm began. The magical pen started drawing thunderclouds to go along with the lightning bolts, swirling gushes of wind and giant soaking raindrops. The raindrops started to fill the sky and fall loudly on the roof of the treehouse, waking up Ivy. She looked around, not thinking at first that the magical pen had anything to do with the storm. Then out of the corner of her eye, she saw something sparkle in the corner of the treehouse. It was the magical pen drawing more raindrops. Oh no, Ivy thought to herself. I need to stop the magical pen before this gets out of hand. Ivy didn't want to wake up her mom and quietly crept toward the magical pen. She didn't want it to see her, so she could grab it and figure out a way to stop the giant storm. But as soon as Ivy got close enough, the magic pen hopped out the treehouse window. Ivy followed it into her backyard and found herself in the middle of a very big, very scary thunder and lightning storm. She didn't know what to do and wished she had never drawn a lightning bolt with the pen in the first place. As Ivy looked around the backyard, she saw a magical sparkle again in between flashes of lightning. She ran toward the sparkle, and with great focus, she grabbed the mischievous pen. But that was only the beginning of stopping the giant storm. Ivy was frightened and didn't know what to do next. Thankfully, the loud pitter-patter of raindrops on the roof of the treehouse and the rumble of thunder woke up Ivy's mom. She called for her daughter and ran into the backyard to help her. She grabbed hold of Ivy's hand, pulling her onto the back deck and into the house. Ivy was still holding tightly onto the magical pen and asked her mom what they should do as the storm continued outside. "Get me another one of your sketchbooks," said Ivy's mom, having a thought. Once she had the sketchbook, she opened it up, ripped out a bunch of pages. She taped them all together and laid them down on the kitchen floor. "Ivy, hand me a regular pen and cross your fingers that this works," said Ivy's mom as she began to draw a giant night sky across all the pieces of paper. After this was done, she told Ivy to follow her outside. With Ivy holding the magical pen, Ivy's mom held up her giant drawing of the night sky and waited. Then all of a sudden, the thunderclouds, raindrops, and lightning bolts drawn by the magical pen began to sparkle and race toward the drawing. They all leapt back onto the paper, forming a giant drawing of the storm. Then as quickly as it began, the storm was over and the night was quiet once again. "Mom, that was amazing!" exclaimed Ivy, hugging her mom. "I don't know how it worked, but I'm really glad it did," said Ivy's mom. "I just figured maybe the storm drawings would feel more at home in a picture. I guess I was right. Since they're not sparkling anymore, I'm pretty sure they can no longer leave and become real. I think we did it." "But what are we going to do with the magical pen? We can't just put it in the box. We know it'll get out again and draw whatever it wants to," said Ivy. "I'll be honest, I don't know exactly what to do right now, but let's just wish on a star that we can think of something fast," said Ivy's mom. The night sky was now crystal clear after the storm had been stopped, and tiny twinkling stars filled the darkness. "That's it," called out Ivy. "Give me your giant drawing." Ivy's mom handed her daughter the drawing of the night sky, excited to see what she was going to do. The paper was wet, but Ivy handled it carefully. She took the magical pen and drew star after star after star into the sky until the magical pen ran out of ink. Then she held up the drawing and watched as the stars she had just drawn sparkled and leapt off the page into the night sky, filling the backyard with a beautiful glow. "Thankfully, you were right," said Ivy. "When you thought that the storm drawings weren't magic anymore, I really hoped that was true. That way my new star drawings would leave the paper and the rest of the storm would stay. And it did." Ivy's mom gave her daughter a big hug as the stars sparkled over their heads. Then Ivy and her mom crumpled up the giant storm drawing and walked inside to toss it in the trash. And with the magical pen out of ink, they knew they could safely put it back in the metal box. Standing in the backyard, Ivy's mom turned to her daughter with a smile and said, "So, how was that for an adventure?" "Pretty amazing. We make a really good team, and I'd go on an adventure with you any day," replied Ivy, giving her mom a big hug. The two then went inside to dry off after standing out in the storm. After they did, they went back out to the treehouse to settle in for the night. As she lay there, Ivy wondered how she and her mom would explain the new playset to Levi and her dad. But that was a question they could answer another day. As Ivy and her mom stared at the stars outside the treehouse window, they knew a little bit of magic was staring back at them. And on the list of greatest adventures that Ivy ever had, her night with her mom and the magical pen was definitely at the top of her list. Thanks for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed the story and learned a little something too.
And since we know everyone has their own story, we'd love to hear yours.
If you have an idea for a Lively Lewis story, leave a comment on our Apple Podcast review page with 5 stars, your idea, and your little one's name.
Then maybe our next adventure will be with you.
Until our next Storytime Hangout.
Thanks for listening. We can't wait to share another fun Lively Lewis story with you.
This is an iHeart podcast.